Officer Chris Stromauer will share a presentation about the county's investments and the outlook for the FY26 budget. After the presentation, we will open the floor for public testimony and people will get a chance to share their thoughts. But before we get started, I would like to take the opportunity to recognize our additional elected leaders in the audience. So we have Board of Education member Dana Shellheim in the audience. And Delegate Latoya Ningolo. Did I say that correctly? I'd also like to introduce some of our directors who are in the audience. So for staff as well. So we have Sarah Stein from the Department of Aging and Disability. Sarah. And Aaron Day, the Assistant Director of the Department of Public Works. And now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Council Member Amanda Fiedler, and then we'll hear from County Executive Stewart.
Thank you. Before we get started on the budget remarks and the presentations, I want to take a moment of personal privilege. As you might have heard in the news, Montgomery County lost one of their firefighters, Chris Higgins, who was actually a classmate of mine at Brodick High School, class of '97, and left behind a young family. I know our fire service family is feeling that loss. I know across the state as these brothers and sisters go into buildings to save one another, as well as your dwellings and your belongings. So if we could have a moment of silence for firefighter Chris Higgins. Thank you so much. Now, every year we do these budget presentations, and the county executive puts together a really lovely presentation with Budget Officer Chris Stromauer, and I think it is so helpful, and knowledge is power for you all. But I decided at lunch today, I'm going to put a presentation together on the county council's process, because you know from this presentation how it works for the executive branch. But what happens when it comes to the county council? And I want to thank the county executive. He'll probably mention this in his remarks. He's only required to do 2 of these at these budget town halls every year. And he does 7, one in each district, and 1 online. And I think a bilingual presentation as well. And I think that that is so important, and I hope future county executives do the exact same thing, because this step in the process, where we are in the timeline, is the most critical. Because I think of the budget as a cake. And by the time it gets to the county council, that cake is almost baked. You can't go back in time and start over if you don't like what's in it. You can only put it in the oven for a few more minutes until it's finished. And here is why. So May 1st, right here, if you see all of the green in the calendar, that is budget related. So on May 1st, the county executive introduces the budget to the county council. We take a small recess after the presentation, and then we immediately jump into presentations from the affordability folks and all county departments. I don't think we actually start with county departments that day, but the Planning Advisory Board also gives us immediate feedback on the budget. Then we have, in that whole month and a half, we have county council meetings, regular legislative meetings that we are working on simultaneously with the budget. We meet on these green days with about 30 county departments spread over these days. So we finish right about the end of May with the county departments. Then we have Memorial Day weekend, and then we hear from the auditor. So we are, as we're hearing from the departments, we're kind of formulating what we think might be something that we could cut to be able to plead to the county executive to add items back in that you are requesting through the course of these hearings, because the county council can only make cuts. We do not have the authority to add to the budget.
So we really have an idea right here on the 28th, and this is last year's calendar, so these won't be the exact dates this year. We have an idea from the auditor of extra money from the cuts that we can reinstate in a supplemental budget. So if you're looking at the timeline here, we're on the 28th when we have a real picture of what we can do. The administration has their rebuttal the next day. And then we have, this was last year's again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 weekdays until we have to have amendments introduced at a meeting. Why is it so important that you're here tonight and maybe you go to other town hall meetings in different districts? Because if you look at how long each branch of government has the budget to work on in months, you'll see in a slide here that the executive branch starts working on the budget in September of the previous year. If you count every month from September until they pass the budget to the county council in May, it's 8 months. Then you have 2 months in that time frame that the budget is being deliberated at the Planning Advisory Board, and the administrative review also takes place at the executive branch. Then this green line right here is the month and a half that it is with the budget is with the legislative branch, and then this 0.5 of a month is the real time that we have to work on amendments. So when I talk about baking a cake, this is why, and you being here before the budget is introduced is so critically important. I'm going to pass it back to the administration, and I look forward to hearing all of your remarks this evening. Thank you so much for coming.
We would have put that in our slides. So, but next time you'll do your slide presentation, we'll get it up on the big screen. But that was great. That was great to hear. Because it is a very different kind of a process. And yes, it's true that council members can't add the sort of an exception on education, I understand, but hopefully they don't have to plead too hard to get us to add, but that is how it works. And you know, Chris Trumbauer, our budget officer, is very collaborative with all 7 council members, and we do exactly that. If we can figure out something that we can cut from the proposed budget that we have, and then we talk to council members about what would be the best thing to add to replace it. So that has happened, I think, in all of our budgets. This is our 47th budget town hall, by the way. So welcome to our 47th budget town hall. I did the math because we started doing these online, these ones that are bilingual, 2 years ago, and we add those 7 times, 6 years. This is the 7th year, and this is the 3rd budget town hall this year. And they never get old. There's always something new. There's always something that we've heard before, and we hear it again and again because it's very important, but they never get old. And I particularly like the ones that are coming directly out of neighborhoods that we may not have heard before. I feel very lucky that I have been lucky. I've been county executive during a time of primarily a time of prosperity, a time where revenues were coming into county coffers at a pretty good clip. I was not here in 2007-8 for the Great Recession when the county really had to tighten its belt. We did have the year of COVID when we thought the economy was going to really collapse, and it was as we were doing our budget, COVID was coming in. We realized we had to tighten our belt, and that was a year where we did very, very little in terms of supplemental budget requests in departments, and folks didn't get the pay increases that they got in most years unless they'd already been negotiated before that. But I feel a little bit this year like things you'll hear from Chris Trumbauer that revenues we expect to keep coming in at a pretty good clip, and we're going to have pretty good recurring revenue over last year, maybe close to $100 million more. And we probably will have a pretty good fund balance at the end of the year that we can invest in some things. But the math doesn't look very pretty when you start looking at the increased costs and the things that are already obligated that we don't have a choice that we pay for before we start adding things into the budget. And then there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a new administration coming in Washington that has said that they're going to be making some major cuts at the federal level, potentially loss of federal jobs for folks who live in Anne Arundel County, so their income will decline, therefore income to the county declines from their taxes. That'll probably take a couple of years. But I feel a little bit, and then the state, of course, is dealing with a $3 billion budget deficit that they're working on. In fact, the governor just introduced his budget proposal, which I actually, a bit of a sigh of relief when I saw that. It's not, the cuts are not as draconian as I expected, and they don't affect the county as much as I expected. So there are going to be some cuts to the county, but they're going to be hopefully offset by some changes in the way they do the income tax. So, but I feel very lucky that we are in a place where we know that we can continue the services that we have, at least, with the revenues that we have. And so we're talking about, you know, what we can increase, and we can do some small things, but we can't do big things. So it's important that you're here. I will tell you that towards the end of the process, after we've heard from all of our departments with their budget requests, and we're sitting around and we have the maybe category of the things that we might be able to fund, then that's where your words start ringing in our ears, and we feel the pressure, and we get things in there, hopefully. There was one department head. It's not quite a department yet that was not introduced. Maybe she's here because she lives in Severna Park. I'm surprised she's not wearing a purple shirt herself. Claudia Roll, who's the director of our Animal Care and Control, also. So I'll end with that and pass it over to Chris.
All right, let's check. Everybody can hear me in the back there? Super. I'm Chris Trumbauer. I'm the budget officer. I'm about to give a presentation that we gave, the exact same presentation the last two budget town halls. So if you've seen it already, you can hang out and do your Duolingo or check your Instagram, because nothing changed. If it's new to you, I'm going to go through some things about the budget process and a little bit about the fiscal outlook that we can expect going forward. So the first thing is the timeline, and the council member referenced this a little bit, but we start working on budget all the way back in September. It's important, if you see where the circle is, where we are right now in January, no decisions have been made, okay? So we're still preparing the budget, we're still getting requests from our departments. No decisions have been made, nothing has been analyzed yet. That's why we have these town hall meetings now when it's 3 degrees outside, so that we can hear from all the constituents when your feedback will be absorbed before decisions are made. A little bit more about the process, and again, Councilmember Fiedler went into this, but we start getting our departmental budget submissions where they request what they need for the upcoming year right about now in mid-January. And then at the same time, we start hosting these town halls to hear from the constituency. And then the next is that my office, the budget office, does internal review. So this is where we kind of poke at the things that have been requested. We make sure the math is right. We ask questions to the department. We try and get it in as good a shape we can before we hand it off and let the departments present their budget requests to the county exec and his budget team, right? And that happens on May 1st. So you can see that the color change there is green. That's the transition. After May 1st, the county council has the budget, so they're in control. They schedule the hearings, they vote on amendments, they get a report from the auditor, they can cut things, and then they work collaboratively with the administration to add some things if they want. And then everything is said and done by June 15th. That's according to the charter. So the color change there shows you it starts off as an administration, it hands off to the council, and then hopefully they pass the budget and we all live happily ever after. All right, where's the money come from? Here's a pie chart that shows you, you're going to see there's two big slices of the pie, right? The red one is income tax and the blue one is property tax. That's about 3/4 of our overall revenue come from those two sources. So thank you for paying our taxes. That's what makes everything work, okay? We appreciate that. There are some other slices of the pie. There's real estate taxes, there's license and permits, there's fees that we do. We get a little bit from the state, but they are pale in comparison to those two big slices that make up the bulk of county revenue. Where does the money go? I bet you could guess. Half of it goes to our friends at the Board of Education to run public education, right? That's about half at any given year of our operating budget. And then you can see the other pie slices in some of our core groups. Public safety is the next biggest one. And then what we have kind of our government operations or general government, that's things that just keep the trains running, like our finance department, our central services department, our budget office, all the non-sexy parts of government, but that are really important At least I think so. All right, so what's in the budget? We are halfway through the current year budget, which went into effect in July 1st. There's some great stuff in there, and I'd like to thank the county exec for proposing it, the county council for adopting it. We are very proud that one of the priorities last year was to increase our police starting pay to try and attract the best recruits we could. We're number one, $70,000 starting salary for our police department. And we also increased funding for operations in both the police and fire departments so that they could do more overtime and run more shifts as necessary. We maxed out our rainy day fund. That's where we hold money in reserve for the next economic downturn. And it will come. Can't tell you when, but it'll come. It always does. I remember the Great Recession of about 15 years ago. That was bad. So something's coming. And having that money in reserve means when things get bad, then we can use that money to plug in the hole so we don't have to shut down services or lay people off or furlough or reduce critical services, right? And the other thing that we have done in this budget is we've extended several really critical programs that we were able to start during the pandemic with our federal recovery funds. And they weren't all related to COVID, right? We did a lot with different health outcomes and some social safety net programs. And what we found after a couple of years is these programs are really working. They're really helping a lot of people, even as the pandemic is over. And so over the last year and two, we've been transitioning those over to county funding to keep them going. They might look a little different than they did in 2021 when we were in a raging pandemic, but they're still helping a lot of people. We also fully funded the Board of Education's compensation request. That's teacher pay and educator pay. And we kept our AAA bond rating, which is the best possible bond rating you can get from all three bond rating agencies, and that shows that they believe we have a strong fiscal foundation and that we are a good investment, and we'd like to keep it that way. So I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, hey, Chris, how do we compare to our neighbors, right? Everyone wants to know. What is it like living in Anne Arundel County? Okay, this is going to show you a chart of all 24 county jurisdictions, the rate we pay on our property tax, okay? We're the yellow gold one there. So as you can notice, we're kind of right in the middle, a little bit towards the right. So every county to the left of us is paying a higher property tax than we are. Ours is 98.3 cents on $100 of assessed value. So that's how much taxable assessment you have. Now, I know a lot of you, and particularly in this district, you got new tax assessments this year, right? Did they go up a lot? Yes, they did. That's bad news for homeowners, but I have some good news for you. The county has a very generous homestead credit at 2%. That means if it's your primary home and you've declared it as such and you've filled out whatever paperwork is necessary, even if your assessment goes up 20, 30%, you're only going to be charged for 2% annually. So this year, if your assessment went up, it's 2%. Next year, it might be another 2%. But that really insulates you so you don't get a big wide swing. So don't get too scared when you see that new assessment. We do have that buffer. Now, that means that's revenue the county's not getting, but we're okay with that because we don't want to chase all of our homeowners out of the county, right? So we have a very good tax credit here. But even putting that aside, all those other counties to the left of me, and those are our comparable counties, Baltimore County, Howard County, Frederick, all the other big counties, they're all paying a higher rate. If you have friends in Baltimore City, that's that really big bar right there. They're paying like 3 times the rate we are, but Baltimore City is a special case. Next one, this is income tax, okay? So this is what we pay on the wages and the money that we earn. Again, we're yellow. What do you notice there? We're way over on this side, right? That is because we are the 5th lowest income tax on average of all the county jurisdictions. There's only 4 counties that have lesser rate than us: Cecil, Garrett, Talbot, and Worcester. So those are Eastern Shore counties or Western Maryland counties, right? Everybody else is paying more. Now, you see some weird little dotted lines there. Though that's because we're one of only 2 counties that has a progressive tax rate. That means that on your up to income, up to $50,000 taxable income, you're paying a lower rate, 2.7. For income above that 50, up to 400, you're paying 2.94%. And for any income, if you're doing pretty well and you're making over $400,000 a year as an individual filer, then you're going to pay 3.2%. Now, the way that works is if you're making $450,000 a year, which is a lot, you're not paying that high rate on that entire amount. You're only paying that high rate once you pass the threshold, so after the $400,000. So you're paying that high rate on $50,000. And if you're only making $45,000 a year, then you're only paying that low rate on all your income, okay? Next is the recordation and transfer tax. This is the real estate taxes. What you can see here is that back in the housing bubble, there was a big run up, then it went down, and then kind of like recovery, slow growth, and then you see this another big spike up, right? So the good news there is we saw that spike, we knew it was happening, we know it's not sustainable, nothing can grow that fast, right? Like even if you see the stock market and your investment goes up that, you know it's coming down at some point. So we budgeted to a lower amount. Sure enough, a couple years ago it started coming down. What I wanted to show you here, where we're at right now is about $80 million less than where we were at that peak. That means $80 million less revenue coming to the county than just a few years ago, right? 80 million bucks, that's a lot. That can pay for a lot of things in the schools. I can pay for park rangers. I can pay for, new roads and all kinds of stuff. So that's kind of a depressed revenue that we're looking forward to more recovery so we can get it back. But it ain't going to go back until mortgage interest rates go down, right? Because if you're sitting on a 2.5% mortgage, you're not looking to sell your house and get a new one for 7%. Let's all hope that the rates go down. Here's just a visual representative of our rainy day fund, and the county policy for a while has been to have that be at its maximum allowable limit, which is 8% of our operating budget revenue. The bond rating agencies are very comfortable with that. The county executive proposed and the county council approved of increasing that. From a while back it was 5%. That really wasn't enough reserves. So I think we're at a comfortable level now, and we'll continue to keep that up there. And it does earn interest, so that cash isn't just sitting there. It's being put to work as well. All right, the next series of slides, I'm going to talk about some of the investments we've made over the years. And for all of these, just to orient us, I see that dotted vertical line. That's when the Pittman administration started. That's when you all elected this guy, right? That was 6 years ago. So it just kind of shows you, this is public safety funding, and the red is the fire department, the gold is sheriff, and the blue is the police department. And what you can see is over the last few years, you've seen a dramatic increase in that funding compared to the baseline of 20 years ago. This is showing the last 20 years of funding. And that's deliberate. It's important because we want to invest in our public safety. We wanted to increase salaries, and we wanted to give them the tools they need to do their job. And we just wanted to show visually what that looks like compared to years and years ago. Similarly, on the rec and park side, those are those green bars. We've made dramatic investments there as well. I'm a former council member. I was on the county council. I got elected in 2010, and that was right when we were going through that great recession. And I came on that council. I was looking forward to doing all this stuff, and all of a sudden we had to cut the budget because we were in a recession. That sucked, right? Well, here it is visually. Look what happened. The Rec and Parks Department actually got reduced budget for several years. They didn't recover until 5, 6, 7 years even after that. But so then when this administration came in and this county council, they have supported a pretty significant increase in operational support to our Rec and Parks Department. You see a little dip there a few years ago. That was the COVID pandemic because a lot of programs were shut down and they didn't need funding, summer camps and athletic stuff. But once that recovered, you can see that investment. We've opened some new parks. We've done some new programs. That costs money, but that's very important to us. So you can see that visually. This slide is Board of Ed. So again, 50% of our budget goes to Board of Education. It's a little bit different. We don't have the same amount of control. We give it appropriation to the board, and then they have their board of directors, the Board of Education members, that are the watchdogs and that appropriate that, similar to the county does on our side. But for many, many years, they kind of had slow, modest growth. Now we've got the Blueprint for Education, and we've got a lot of other needs in modern schools, so we've really increased that funding. And you can't see it because the numbers are too small, but what this bar is showing is the most recent one this year is actually about 111% increase over the baseline budget, which was 2005. So that's pretty strong growth. Just during the last 5 years, we've added 81.5 behavioral health positions, 111 pre-K positions, and 179 special education positions. So that's a tremendous investment, and it's needed to provide our public education students with the best education that they can get. This one is going to show some investments in health and human services, and this is a big jump. And what you see in that big bar at the far right of the screen, That represents us absorbing some of those programs we started during the pandemic that were really helping people, bring them over to the county side, right? So this is things like you hear the county executive talk about the gun violence intervention program. You see we've dramatically increased our food pantry support. You see a bunch of things like that. We were doing that with the federal the federal stimulus dollars or recovery funds. Now those are gone, so we're transitioning it over to the county general fund. And then finally, I want to show the investments in affordable housing. That's a big topic these days. I think everybody realizes, and you can see with the home values, that we really have a supply problem for housing. A few years back, we started the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. This is funded by a surcharge on your real estate taxes for only transactions that are more than $1 million. And that has generated extra money. So you see that big jump the last 3 years. That is funding the Affordable Housing Trust and hopefully building some good housing stock for our workforce. I want to take a second just to tout the local projects. This is just kind of a selection. Your council member is a great advocate for her district, and we get a lot of community feedback, so we've got a lot of projects in. You can see transportation, education programs, a lot of rec and park stuff in District 5, and of course you have the community college here, so you get a couple extra projects there for having the college, but there's a lot going on in District 5, and you can thank the county exec and the county council member for that. All right, now here's where we look into the Chris Trumbauer crystal ball. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but as part of the budget process, we put our best guess forward so we can project revenues. We do have half of this year done, so I can tell you how we're doing in fiscal year 25 so far, and we're pretty much dead on our revenue projections, so that's good news. If we look forward a little bit out, on the income tax side, I think things look pretty good. I think there'll be continued modest growth. We're seeing real wage growth that's better than inflation, so that's good. Property tax is going to be fine. Even as the assessments skyrocket, we don't get all that money, as I discussed before, but it will continue to go up. Recordation and transfer tax, this is those real estate taxes. That's where I really hope that we see some recovery in the next couple of years because we're at a depressed level. We want to get some more funding out of that. And then state funds. I put that on there because you guys have been following probably the state budget. They have a big deficit. The county executive alluded to that in his remarks. We are expecting a reduction in state assistance towards our budget in a couple various things. So that will have an effect. And if they're funding critical services, we'll have to make that up on the county side. And then, as the county exec mentioned, with the incoming administration, I don't know what Donald Trump is going to do. I don't think anybody does, but I can tell you it'll be different than what Joe Biden did. So we are going to see some changes. If the federal workforce gets reduced or departments get relocated from the area, that'll have an effect. If we have tariffs and things, that might reignite inflation, which would be an issue. So there's a lot of things that could happen, and we'll see maybe in a couple months what's going on. But we do have an increased level of uncertainty because of the administration change and the change in macroeconomic policies. And then on the expenditure side of the house, we have what we call kind of built-in increases for operations. And you guys know this because you see it at the grocery store, but things are more expensive now, right? Well, we see that too in our labor and material costs and our contractual costs and things. So we have these operational increases. We're also doing pretty good filling vacancies, which is good news for the county, but it means we have less savings on our personnel side. And then, as I mentioned, over the last couple of years, we have seen growth as we've expanded some operations, and so we need to pay for all of that. And then we have our Board of Education mandates with the blueprint, just lots of things going on. So even though our revenue picture may look pretty good, a lot of it is already spoken for. So real quick, I'm going to do the next slide. This is an exercise that we started a year or two ago, and I think is helpful because it puts you a little bit in the shoes of the county exec where he'll be in a couple months having to make these hard decisions, right? So it's probably too small for you to see, but you can download this later or you can see. But what we've got is all of the FY26, the upcoming year, the projected things we're going to have to spend money on, okay, and they're grouped in categories. We have non-discretionary. Those are those built-in increases that we can't really do anything about. Like we got to pay our pension costs, we got to pay health care for our employees, we got to pay our debt service on our bonds, right? We got to do all that. And the next thing is our pay packages. We want to pay our employees. And then the thing after that is where we actually have a little bit more discretion. We have ability to do supplemental requests or expand county operations, right? So when we look out, and what we know now is we can project pretty good revenue year. We're looking at about $100 million, right? That sounds like a lot of money, because it is a lot of money. That's a lot of cake, right? I'm going to show you it doesn't go that far anymore. So let's say, just for the sake of argument, don't hold me to this, because we got a couple more months to fine-tune our projections, but let's say for the sake of argument, we got $100 million, okay? So all those built-in increases I told you about, I'm going to put a guesstimate there. That's about $30 million. So we're going to take that off the top. $30 million gone like that. Now we got 70. Still a lot of money. We can do a lot with that, right? Got to pay our employees. I don't know what that's going to look like yet. We have unions and bargaining units that we do negotiations with. So I can tell you that last year we spent about $18 million, and that was a 3% increase on cost of living, and then everybody gets a 3% merit increase. So what will it look like this year? I don't know yet. Probably somewhere close to that. So let's say 15, maybe 20 million. So let's subtract 15, right? So we had 70, take 15 off of that. My math says we got 55 left. Still a lot of cake, yeah? Okay, guess what? Superintendent's request for the school system, $94 million. I got 55, okay? That doesn't include, got to pay for any increases in community college. Our library system's going to have requests. Our county departments are going to want to do things, right? Other just operational support things. So all of those things have to come out then of that pot of somewhere around 55 million. So what that means is that this guy to my left is going to have tough decisions to make, because everything you guys talk about today is going to be awesome, and we're going to want to fund, but we have a finite amount of resources to spread around. So that is just a little bit of contextual to show you that the process lends itself to typically having more requests than we have funding to go around. So real quick, I'll finish in a minute. Some of the pressures on the budget that I haven't mentioned yet, we have the continued high inflation. We've got the kind of depressed level of real estate transfer tax revenue. The budget shortfalls on the state could affect us. And then we've got all those incremental increases that kind of add up. And then finally, the departmental base budget increases to cover those expanded operations that we've been able to do the last year or two. Now, I've talked a lot. You probably glazed over 10 minutes in. But if you want to know more about the budget, I have great news. We have a lot of resources out there. Here's some of the links. We have Open Arundel, which has a whole bunch of budget data on it. We have the Budget Buddy, and that's our data development explorer. And you can actually drill down into departmental budgets, and you can see their different way that that's made up. We have the Budget Office page, where you can see the current year budget, and you can go back 10 or 15 years and see more previous budgets. And then the Your Budget page, which is aacounty.org/yourbudget, probably the most important because it has all these links on it. That's where you can get this presentation. That's where you can see information about the town halls, and you can get a little bit more of a sense of what's going on with the current year budget. So the last thing I want to say on the final slide is we do really look at this feedback. It does make a difference. We're going to listen to everybody who comes up to speak tonight. If you don't feel like getting up in front of 100 people, you can email us. If you have friends or neighbors or family members that couldn't come, they still want to contribute, please give them this email. Every email is read. Everything is cataloged. They're put in a report. He sees them, and when we're making decisions, they really do matter. Okay? Thanks for listening, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Budget Officer Trumbauer, County Executive Pittman, and Councilmember Fiedler. But now it's time to hear from you all. So we will move into the public testimony portion of the evening, where we get a chance to hear from you. This is your chance to let the county leaders know what you would like to see in the FY26 budget. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to give their testimony. You will see a timer on the screen to help you keep track of your time. And for the sake of time, the county executive and the council member will respond to every comment, but they are listening and taking notes. I will begin by calling names of the people who sign up to speak when they checked in this evening, starting with the residents of District 5, and then followed by everyone else who signed up to speak. I will call a few names at a time, and when I call your name, please line up in that order behind the microphone. After we've gotten through the list of people who sign up to speak, we will open the floor For anyone else who would like to share their budget requests, if we don't have time to hear from you tonight, or if you think of something else, or if you feel inspired by what you hear, you can use the email address budget-comments@aacounty.org to submit your thoughts. All right, so it's magically appearing right now. All right, I will now call a few of you, so if you can please line up when I call your name. Noah Comet, Jennifer Sell, and Betsy Bender. And when you come up, please speak directly into the mic so everyone can hear you clearly, and state your name before you begin.
My name is Noah Comet. Good to go? Okay. Good evening, Councilmember Fiedler and County Executive Pittman. My name is Noah Comet, and I'm a resident of Arnold. I'm also a library trustee, and that's what brings me here tonight. Given your support of the library's supplemental request in previous years, for which we are immensely grateful, I know that you don't need convincing when it comes to the value that our library system brings to our county in the form of access to resources and safe spaces and community engagement. You get it, and we never take that for granted. AACPL is now experiencing its highest ever circulation rates, and that's only one index of its success. To cite one more, in 2024, library staff distributed nearly 6,000 Chromebooks, helping visitors find employment, attend university courses, and help their kids complete their own schoolwork. So this really is an anchor organization in our county. But of course, communities grow, needs expand, and AACPL again asks for your continuing support. In particular, I would hope for you to fund the library's new supplemental budget request, which will be crucial to hiring staff in several key areas. These include human resources, where the system is critically understaffed in the areas of training and development, and materials management, facilities management, and data analysis, which are all needed to meet the demands of the library's higher circulation and visitation rates. So please continue to invest in our library system. A quick visit to any one of the AACPL branches will attest to how worthwhile that investment is. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Sell. I live in Severna Park, and I'm a teacher with AACPS. I'm here today to ask you to fully fund the AACPS budget. I know that you both profess to be a supporter of teachers. You go on Facebook and call us heroes and hail us with great honors. However, you then show what you really think when it comes time for the budget. Last year, the Board of Education approved a budget, but the county didn't like that budget. You thought it was too much money and cut it back, preventing teachers from getting enough of a COLA to actually cover the cost of inflation. Your Facebook posts say one thing, but your pen sends the real message. You don't really care about teachers or students. You say Arundel is the best place to live, but not for teachers. It's a common refrain that our teachers can't afford to live in the county that they teach, and that's partially your fault, between your decision to reduce our COLA and your weak housing affordability measures. If only teachers were police, because you love giving them money. At this event, the police department had the audacity to pass out a flyer asking all of us to support them in getting a quote-unquote professional wage. So let's talk numbers. The salary for a local police officer, which only requires a GED or a high school diploma, starts at $70,000. Teachers have to have bachelor's degrees and only start at $60,000. The disparities only worsen from there. The current AACPS pay scale for teachers with a master's and another 60 graduate level credits tops out at $114,000. Just the base level police officer position with no promotion tops out at $127,000. Who is getting a professional salary here? Make it make sense. Your Facebook posts don't pay for mortgages. Your Facebook posts don't pay for food in a ballooning economy. We need more special education teachers to provide legally mandated special education services. We need more TSAs to help us address an increase in behavioral concerns so that we don't have to stop teaching a whole class of students when one student is distracting the class. What will help with that is money. Please fully fund the AACPS budget this year.
Good evening. My name is Betsy Bender, and I'm also a resident of this district. I'm also on the board of the County Library Foundation, and I was inspired to serve because as a lifelong resident of the county, I've personally benefited from the library's role in our community and seen the power of educating, enriching, and inspiring our neighbors. From my perspective, the library is fundamental to creating a wonderful place to live, work, and raise families. Thank you, Councilmember Fiedler and County Executive Pittman, for your support of the library's requests in the past, especially the salary adjustments over the last 2 years. People are the engine that drives the success of any organization, especially one that provides so many services and serves its customers throughout their entire lives, as our 16 library branches do. This is why the highest priority for the library in this year's supplemental funding request is the addition of critical staff positions across several key areas. Noah also mentioned materials management, facilities management, data analysis, and human resources. As Noah also mentioned, the library has seen record-breaking circulation numbers and needs enhanced operational support to manage increased customer demand. They need a dedicated data analyst to harness the power of data to improve decision-making and to operate more efficiently and optimize services. The library also hopes to add resources for staff development. Currently, just 1.5 positions are dedicated to staff training and development for hundreds of employees. Expanding this capacity is essential to ensure the library team is well prepared to meet evolving customer needs and expectations. I urge you to support these requests so that the library can continue to thrive and provide the outstanding resources and opportunities that make such a meaningful difference in the lives of our residents. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your service. And thank you again for your past and continuing support of the library and its staff.
Thank you. Up next, we have Arjun Van Andel, Scott Congalisi, excuse me, and Anita Raimondo.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Arjen van Andel. I'm the chair of the Transportation Commission. Thank you, County Executive, for being here on the 30-something time, you said? 47th. And Amanda Fiedler for being here again and listening to what everyone has to say about the budget. I wanted to take a moment to provide an update on the transportation budget and the impressive ridership numbers we've seen in the last fiscal year. Because thanks to increased transportation budget in our county, we've surpassed their initial ridership forecast of 275,000 rides, with an estimate 360,000 rides by the end of this fiscal year. And that's quite an achievement, making us one of the few agencies in the nation where the post-pandemic ridership is actually higher than before. Even we managed to double our ridership since 2020. This remarkable growth in ridership could not have been possible without the support of the County Executive Council leadership of our county. The dedication has been instrumental in this success. Thank you for that. To put this into perspective, 360,000 rides per year means that 500 people per day can use transportation to reach their jobs, education, healthcare, and other things. Without this reliable transportation option, these individuals would have faced significant higher costs and challenges. However, 30,000 people in our county are living below the poverty level, and 23,000 businesses are in need for a better workforce connection. Our efforts are more crucial than ever. With the annual operating budget of $15 million per year, we spend about 30 tax dollars per citizen on transportation to support those 30,000 people in need. For everyone's understanding, we spend also $90 million on school buses, meaning $180 per citizen to support the 90,000 school kids. To put this in perspective, we need the people in need, they get $500 per person per year, and school kids $1,000 per kid per year. So my question, of course, is can we find better and more creative ways forward? I would like to recommend evaluating how transportation options can be combined. If there's any counties and cities across the nation that can have demonstrated that things can be done in a combined way. I'm sure I'll cut it short here then going over time. I just want to make sure that we're aware of the cuts that are possible made by the federal government and also the situation at MDOT. So maybe we can sit together and look at how we can be more independent from LUTs funds provided by the MTA. I would recommend that we start planning for alternative options to fund our transportation network to avoid dire situations in the years ahead. So the Transportation Commission would be happy to assist in these efforts. Thank you for these offers. Sorry for going over time.
Good evening, County Executive Pittman, Councilmember Fiedler. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you tonight. Everywhere we turn today, we bear witness that our society, our families, and our children are in the midst of a mental health crisis. Every day, I am on the front lines helping school children cope with an increasingly complex and perilous social system. Children who exhibit severe behavior as never before seen in our history, children who express inclinations to self-harm and suicide at higher rates than ever, or who turn their mental anguish and distress toward peers and teachers in acts of violence and aggression, or who simply stop showing up to school. My name is Scott Cangelosi, and I'm a proud school social worker. I use over 25 years of clinical experience to address a complex array of factors that have led to this point. Social workers are master's-level clinicians, often with hundreds of hours of continuing education. Social workers are the only licensed mental health providers employed by Anne Arundel County Public Schools. We are uniquely positioned and use a holistic approach to target meaningful change in students' lives. We provide individual and group counseling, family support, advocacy, needs assessment, resource referral, diagnostic clarification, IEP support, crisis intervention, and 100 other services that largely go unnoticed and undervalued. But Anne Arundel County is losing school social workers because of an historical mistake statewide and a discriminatory practice in pay structure. Other counties have corrected this problem, while Anne Arundel's current and prospective social workers are applying to these counties or transferring internally to higher paying positions. In the past 2 years, we've lost nearly 10% of our cohort to such transfers and county defections. Now, the social workers are petitioning the Board of Education to correct this problem. We are advocating for ourselves. It is not something we usually do. Please support our bid to correct the salary scales and provide equitable compensation to school social workers by fully funding the board's budget. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Anita Raimondo. I am a resident of District 5. I have been a supporter and volunteer with Annapolis Immigration Justice Network for 4+ years and have the privilege of hearing and witnessing many amazing stories that change young people's lives.
I'm Katie Burke, and I'm an AIJN board member, and we're here with other District 5 residents testifying in favor of continued funding for AIJN's legal and wraparound services for immigrant children program through the county's Partnership for Children, Youth, and Families.
The investment the county executive and county government has made to support immigrants in our county is changing lives. AIJN provides legal financial assistance, transportation, and case management for youth in our county. Having this support means that immigrant children navigating their legal cases can focus on important aspects of their lives, such as attending school and studying without the pressure of being underrepresented or not represented at all at a looming court case. Those who have been supported by this program are some of the most valued residents in our county. They are children and youth who have been abused, neglected, or abandoned, as well as victims of human trafficking. Through this program, 172 children, some as young as 3 years of age, as well as unprotected youth who are between 13 and 21 years of age, have received funding for high-quality legal representation for their immigration cases. Data has shown that unaccompanied children with attorneys are 7 times more likely to receive an outcome that is positive and allows them to remain in the United States than those without legal representation.
AIJN's work changes the trajectory of lives. Let me introduce you to an AIJN youth client funded by this program. After circumstances of extreme hardship, he received legal representation and was granted legal status to remain in the U.S. In June, we celebrated as he graduated from an area high school, now securely on a legal pathway to citizenship, and with his work authorization, he is employed here in the county. He is safe and he is thriving. AIJN's model is unique and highly effective. We have a 96% success rate and favorable outcomes in court hearings. The reason behind this is because every client that we support has been assessed to be eligible to apply for legal relief. These children and youth have legal grounds to remain in the U.S., but simply cannot afford an attorney. We thank you for considering AIJN's request for continued funding in fiscal year 2026. Thank you.
All right, I see we've been joined by the Department of Recreation and Parks Director, Jessica Lays. And I did forget to remind you that after the 2 minutes, I will remind you to conclude your remarks. So sorry, Arjun, I didn't mean to be rude. So up next, we have Sharon Devlin, and then Marie Sokolov, and William Bauer.
Good evening. My name is Sherry Devlin. I'm a resident of District 5, and I'm here tonight as a volunteer at Anne Arundel County Animal Care and Control. By now, everyone knows that the current shelter was built as a euthanasia facility, that the noise levels are deafening, that it doesn't meet national care standards, and that despite the efforts of amazing staff and many volunteers, the animals live in deplorable conditions. It's unsafe and unfixable. A new construction project has taken away almost all of our outdoor recreational space. A beautiful trail that was built by the county youth and upgraded as an Eagle Scout project has been decimated. And there's no question that this facility, which serves the public in so many ways and is the face of animal care for all county residents, is a real embarrassment. We need a new facility at a new location, and we respectfully request that the county begin funding such a project. And we know that a project like this doesn't happen in a year, or 2 years, or maybe even a decade. But if we don't start planning now, it'll never happen. Shelter volunteers donate tens of thousands of hours each year, and that equates to hundreds of thousands of dollars. The Friends organization has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for shelter needs. Maybe there's a way we can tap into this resource pool. We need to get creative because our homeless animals and county residents deserve it. The purple shirts are here, ready, willing, and able to help with sweat equity and
a strong supporter of the Nonprofit Center. The Nonprofit Center is a program of Anne Arundel County government that provides capacity building services to local 501c3 nonprofit organizations. Over the last 2 years, close to 100 not-for-profit organizations across Anne Arundel County have participated in these professional development courses. I recently completed the Nonprofit Center's 5-week fundraising and sustainability training cohort. The amount of knowledge that was imparted to me was not only immense, but invaluable. Through the training I received, our organization was able to surpass this year's appeal, and we are confident that our future fundraising events will lightly exceed our projections. As such, our organization is expected to rifle through last year's number of serving over 500 youth and adults and continue to provide, through the sport of tennis, the underserved communities of Anne Arundel County. The Nonprofit Center annual operating budget for contractual staff and programming is approximately $125,000 per year. A budget increase of $118,000 will enable the Nonprofit Center, in addition to its current programming, to provide benefits to all full-time staff, keep 41 Community Place open in the evening hours, pilot test a new program, reinitiate its successful internship program, and expand its resource library. The nonprofit center ability to impact the residents of our county is far-reaching through the work of the nonprofit organizations they empower, ultimately improving the lives of those who live and work in Anne Arundel County. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bill Bauer. I'm a water resources and environmental engineer and a certified watershed steward. Tonight I'm speaking as a representative for Save Our Trees, a program of the Anne Arundel County Watershed Stewards Academy. Since Save Our Trees originated in 2022, we have saved over 6,300 trees from the scourge of English ivy, oriental bittersweet, and other invasive vines. Our focus is to take action, educate the public, and advocate for the banning of the sale of invasive vines and shrubs, and for public funding of critical positions and tasks. Save Our Trees is requesting 1, funding for a full-time, permanent, countywide invasive plant professional to develop and implement an invasive plant action plan and who reports directly to the county executive. 2, funding for the weed resistance volunteer coordinator position who would certify citizens as weed warriors, which would grant them access to county property to save county trees from invasive vines, and work with high school students to involve them in managing our county forests. Save Our Trees can attest that students make passionate messengers, often love to work in the woods, and live in every community in the county. Minimal funding to offset high school and college student costs to create PSAs that educate and advocate saving, planting, and protecting trees. English ivy and other invasive vines are destroying our mature trees and blanketing our forest floors. Already the trees we've saved are being invaded again from ivy off of the forest floor. We are losing our trees at an alarming rate. County Executive, you championed a more stringent forest conservation regulation to protect Anne Arundel County's forests from development, but these areas of forest conservation are typically neglected and overrun with invasive non-native flora. Thank you.
All right, up next we have Kurt Svensson, John Keene, and Delilah Schroeder.
Good evening, my name is Kurt Svensson. I'm here to call out a specific example of what I think is wasteful spending and a lack of transparency. I didn't go looking for this, it came to my doorstep. I live in the Campus Green community, and the small part of this community where I have lived for the past 30 years or so was the last section built when sidewalks apparently became a requirement. This lightly traveled corner of our community represents just 20% of the total linear feet of roadway. Despite the absence of sidewalks in the other 80% of this community, including along the main road and the backbone to our community's roadway system, this is a very walkable community. In fact, public school students walk through our community to get to the middle school complex, and the roadway they traverse has no sidewalks. Please don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating for more sidewalks. My point is they're unnecessary in our neighborhood. Nevertheless, a few months ago, county government saw fit to expend some amount, I can't get anybody to tell me how much, to install 5 ADA-compliant curb ramps and to make spot improvements to multiple portions of this sidewalk to repair tree root damage that's made these sidewalks impassable for at least the past 30 years or so. It appears to be a case of throwing good money after bad just because it's there. A lot of my neighbors that I've talked to agree this was a frivolous project. I think you could have engaged with our HOA and looked at less costly alternatives, like maybe decommissioning the sidewalk segment. Public perception of this project's cost varies greatly. One neighbor thinks, oh, $10,000. Another thinks $1 million. I think it's somewhere in between, but it's probably at least $100,000. And I think a lot of people in this room can think of a lot of better things to do with that $100,000. I want to thank Councilmember Fiedler for making multiple inquiries on my behalf over the past several months, but no cost figure has been provided. I shouldn't have to make a Public Information Act request, but that's probably my next step. Thank you.
Good evening, County Executive Pittman and Council County Representative Fiedler. I'm John Keene, resident of Severna Park, past president of Friends of Anne Arundel County Trails, and a member of the county's Bicycle Advisory Board. Our current focus on the Complete Streets initiatives assumes equity for all modes of transportation in the county. This in turn reduces automotive traffic, improves environmental quality, and promotes better community health. I heartily endorse Anne Arundel County's strong support for planning and building a robust interconnected trail network. While the capital budget funding for private shared use paths has been laudable, I would like to urge your efforts to expedite the construction process in a more time-sensitive manner. Our current multi-year to sometimes decades-long process of trail construction creates frustration among potential users awaiting much-needed new projects. A second area of concern is the need for proportional increases in the operating budget funding to the Department of Recreation and Parks and other county agencies to keep up with our expanding trail mileage. We currently have over 40 miles of public trails in the county, and with projects that are currently underway and expected to be completed this year, that number is going to be closer to 50 miles. With that, I would like to suggest that in order to safely operate and maintain this trail system, additional rangers, maintenance workers, vehicles, materials, and equipment are sorely necessary. Thank you very much.
My name is Delilah Schroeder. I'm a District 5 resident who's been a volunteer at Anne Arundel County Care and Control for 11 years. We longtime volunteers have watched the shelter's budget and staffing gradually improve while you both have been in office, and we thank you for that. But there's so much more to be done, including building a new shelter. Right now, I'm going to focus on understaffing. Many employees still are expected to perform multiple full-time jobs in a shelter of our size. We support the shelter's request for 4 new positions. This does not include additional staff necessary if the shelter becomes its own department, as Mr. Pittman has proposed, and we heartily endorse. The new jobs include a certified veterinary technician to help the veterinarian with thousands of shelter animals a year. This also may allow the shelter to resume offering state-funded no-cost spay and neuter surgery to help the pets of the county's lower-income residents. A proposed new adoption and special events coordinator would promote available animals, counsel adopters, and provide follow-up to maximize successful adoptions. Currently, our overworked front desk staffers who don't interact with the animals attempt to counsel adopters while processing their paperwork. There's no routine adoption follow-up. This leads to customer frustration, longer shelter stays for the animals, and more returns of the animals. The third job would be an office support specialist to reduce the paperwork burden on animal officers so that they can spend more time on their core public safety responsibilities. The fourth job would be another animal care attendant so the current staffers don't have to work overtime to care for and feed the animals. Each of these new positions would help improve shelter services, and in the long run, they reduce taxpayer expenses. Please consider funding them. Thank you.
All right, up next we have Ralph Youngs, Leah Paley, and Sally Horner.
Hello, my name is Ralph Youngs. I'm a resident of District 5, a veteran, and surprise, surprise, here to represent my support for animal care and control. I do have a question about whether or not the lobby of the chiropractor lobby had something to do with our seating arrangement tonight. I'd like to urge the council to follow up on the great transition that you provided us to a new director, and to support that change in that organization and provide the funding to make it a success, and to better use, as Delilah said, more effective use of our volunteers. The additional staff will get better returns and investment on their time on the volunteers and the more effective use of volunteers. Secondly, I'd like to say that the shelter has been around for 20 years or more, and it shows. It suffered from recent encroachment by nearby construction, which is a pretty good example of how a capital project probably shouldn't be done. But it does need a lot of help. At the very least, the shelter needs a marker in the budget to put on the agenda of the Planning Advisory Board, and to make sure that it gets into at least some planning stage for the future. Thank you very much for your service and for the opportunity. Thank you.
Good evening. Glad someone said something about the seating. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here this evening. My name is Leah Paley. I am a District 5 resident, but I'm here tonight as the CEO of the Anne Arundel County Food Bank. I want to start by saying thank you so much to the county for your unwavering support, which in the current fiscal year included $1.5 billion. I didn't say this at the last two meetings, but I also wanted to express our appreciation for the work that we've been able to do with the county with our space and talking about the future home for a new food bank. So thank you. I wanted to acknowledge that. I know you have some difficult budget decisions to make, but we are stressing to the county that continued support for the food bank is critical to our operations. I've said it the last couple of meetings, but I think it bears repeating that the conditions in our county as it relates to the number of food insecure residents is not getting better, it's only getting worse. We have over 61,000 residents that are experiencing food insecurity. That's up from 47,000. It's actually a 30% increase in the number of food insecure residents in just 1 year. And I just can't think, but in a county as wealthy as this, in a state as wealthy as this, we can't accept this. And so the county support for our work is critical to supporting the needs of our community. We're seeing more people asking for help right here in District 5, over 11,000 instances of assistance just last year across 8 distribution sites. If we don't have the funding to continue to support our pantries, they are not going to have food to give to our neighbors experiencing food insecurity. We're going to see an increase in our costs. We don't intend to pass that on to the county, but we are requesting a flat amount of $1.5 million. So thank you for considering that, and I appreciate all that you both do. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'm Sally Horner, and I'm here tonight representing the Magathie River Association. We're an all-volunteer organization that represents over 30 community associations and hundreds of individual members. Most of our creeks have forested buffers, which are very important to stream functions. Large trees provide shade in the summer, which cools our creeks. They provide deadwood all year long, which provides food for stream critters and helps stabilize stream banks. They provide leaves in the fall, which supports the stream biota, such as yellow perch. But our forested stream buffers are in trouble because the majority of the large trees are crippled by invasive vines. Invasive climbing vines, such as English ivy and bittersweet, are able to strangle large trees and add so much weight to them that they literally fall down under the burden. This impact is seen all over the county, not just in stream buffers, but also along roads and in neighborhood parks. The good news is that stream buffers, roadsides, and parks are mostly county-owned. This means that the county can help save these trees by harnessing the energy and interest of county residents. We can put our volunteers to work removing vines from the lower 2 feet of tree trunks, thus stopping growth of vines and eventually killing them. What we need from the county is some funding for a full-time professional forester to organize and train our volunteers. This person can work with the Weed Warriors program to expand their work throughout the county. Indeed, we have seen volunteers in action with the Weed Warriors over the years, and we know that there is interest and they want to do this volunteer work. This is a very economical program that depends on one county staff member and hundreds of volunteers. It will result in much healthier and long-lived forests that will provide us with shade, habitat for birds, and productive streams throughout the county. Please help us save our trees. Thank you.
Up next, we have Lauren Meyer, Scott Meyer, and Ann Hamill.
Good evening. My name is Scott Meyer. I'm here tonight to advocate for a sidewalk on London Lane in Chartwell community. London Lane is approximately a quarter-mile street connecting Linwood Drive and St. Andrews Road. It is located a quarter mile from Benfield Elementary School and is across the street from Severna Park Middle School. Over 60% of Chartwell community lives on the other side of London Lane and uses it as the primary through street to get their kids to school in the morning. This includes pedestrians, cyclists, strollers, and vehicles all on the same road at the same time. While the congestion alone poses a safety concern, there are other conditions that make it even more dangerous for pedestrians. These conditions include families that park along London Lane near the Linwood intersection to avoid waiting in the long car lines for drop-off and pickup and force both pedestrians and cars to go around them. Whenever there's snow, ice, or leaves that are on the edge of the road, that forces the kids and cyclists to go further into the middle of the street. And the road runs east to west, with the east side being at the Linwood intersection. So as these kids are walking to school in the morning, the sun is rising, blinding the drivers who are coming up behind them. While there's a crossing guard at the London Lane and Linwood intersection, he's only able to help the kids as they safely cross Linwood. He does not assist them as they walk along London Lane. When asked about the potential of adding a sidewalk along London Lane, he responded immediately that he thought it was a great idea for the safety of the children and other pedestrians, and that it was a dangerous stretch of road, especially before and after school. We know that there are other schools trying to prioritize sidewalks, but this seems like a rare case where multiple schools, both Benfield and the middle school, would benefit from it. A sidewalk could also guide foot traffic and vehicular traffic on occasions where that road is needed for parking, which is whenever there is a school event such as back to school night or sporting events at the middle school. While my main concern is the safety of my children, because we walk to school, it would also benefit everybody in the community who uses it on a daily basis. Thank you.
Chief Executive Pittman, Council Member Fiedler, thank you so much for being here and for everything you've done. And on behalf of the Library Foundation, I'm Ann Hamill, I'm a board member and a District 5 resident. I want to say thank you for your support going forward. We all know the library rocks, and it does an enormous amount. We know that public funding from the government doesn't do it all, and on behalf of the Library Foundation, I would like to ask you to fully fund the library's budget requests. And I had the privilege of attending a staff meeting today where the incredibly committed members of one of our libraries talked about how they can better serve our communities, and they asked me to bring some messages to you from them. So here's the first. We provide so much for our community for free, and it's very meaningful. I have had patrons cry with joy and relief when they found out how we could help, and all of the services that we provide, we are a nexus of connection to the community and also between members of the community. In the senior book club at our branch, the attendees have admitted that the club has been an antidote to their loneliness, and they have developed their own friendships, and they hang out outside our monthly meetings. This may not be something that the public associates the library with, but it's a vital part of our mission goals. We cannot continue to provide these sorts of extras without funding and extra staff. And another wrote, access to information, especially in this day and age, I feel like too many important outlets are being silenced or censored. Preservation of knowledge. Libraries help preserve knowledge and history by collecting and maintaining physical and digital materials and to make them available to everyone always, 24/7. Libraries touch all aspects of our community, both inside and outside the branch. We do everything from supporting caregivers, helping their little ones learn to read, to being a safe space for teens, and so much more. Thank you so much. I ask you to fund the library's budgetary request in full.
Good evening. I'm Lauren Burkmeyer and grew up in Chartwell on Linwood Drive. And I'm here to piggyback on my husband's comments earlier to talk about the London Lane sidewalk. I moved back to Chartwell in 2020 with my family and began advocating for the sidewalk then. The pressing need for a sidewalk on London Lane has been discussed off and on for many years throughout my lifetime. Now that my young family of 3 girls, ages 6 and under, regularly walk the street, I'm passionate about elevating the issue. To that end, I'm chairing a committee for the Chartwell Community Association to address the need for a London Lane sidewalk. I've yet to have anyone in the community disagree with adding a sidewalk. We've also spoken with the county and Board of Ed. Both entities seem to say that the other hold more weight in making these decisions regarding sidewalks. Having some clarity on who truly is the final decision maker and who we really should channel our efforts in is what we're also trying to hope find out. This sidewalk request is not a matter of convenience, although it would be convenient. It's a matter of public safety. The reason there's no sidewalk on London Lane is because Chartwell was built in the 1960s. If the community was built today, the county would have been required to make a sidewalk along London Lane. For example, the community of Shipley's Choice was built in the 1980s, and the county required the developer to construct sidewalks along all streets that weren't dead ends. In closing, I've witnessed such an advantage from them adding the sidewalk on Linwood Drive not too long ago, and improved safety for families, especially kids walking to school. I think we could see the same benefit with a London Lane sidewalk, and thank you so much for allowing all of us to be here to share our thoughts. Have a good evening.
Okay, up next we have Chip Walsh, Cheyenne Dominguez, and Christy Koff.
I'm Chip Walsh from Gambrills. I'm here to talk about bikes, but there are 3 things I'll briefly mention first. My written statement has more details about these. DPW is planning a roundabout at Gambrills Road and Dykus Mill Road. I'm against it. It's a $3.2 million project that we don't need. 2, don't spend another dime on a rowing center at Homeport Farms. 3, please provide a kayak launch in South River Farm Park. Now let's talk biking. By bicycling, I have personally eliminated 6,000 or more car trips. Trips to the store, trips to the train station, to the dentist, to even meetings such as this, but not tonight, it's too icy. Now think about if everyone could eliminate 6,000 auto trips. This would make a dent in traffic congestion and pollution. The exercise will help people be healthier, and if they like cycling as much as me, they'll be happier. People who see me out riding say they wish they could be riding too. But they add, it's too dangerous. Bicycling is dangerous because we don't plan for and build for bikes. For example, we are now building a second section of the South Shore Trail. People are going to want to ride between the 2 sections across Maryland and 3 between the 2 sections. The nearest crossing has no obvious paths for cyclists to safely ride through. In the 27 years since they planned the South Shore Trail, that intersection has been modernized, but no accommodations were made for bicycles because we didn't plan and we didn't build for bikes. The county now has a pedestrian and bicycle master plan. Can we please build to the plan and not take 27 years to discover that we should have added a bike lane on the road project. Every road project should include explicit plans for cyclists and pedestrians. Bike AAA will give you a budget recommendation, and I urge you to strongly consider it.
Hello, good evening. My name is Cheyenne Dominguez, and I'm the president of the Cypress Improvement Association, representing over 300 households on the Cypress Creek Peninsula. Over the last few years, our community has advocated for a sidewalk along Route 2 from Cypress Creek Road to McKinsey Road. A sidewalk in this 0.2-mile stretch of highway is essential for public safety. Our children and adults are walking and biking this dangerous little piece of highway every day as they make their way to our main business district in Severna Park and all the way to Folger McKinsey Elementary. We're really proud to have the support of the Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Severna Park Council, St. John the Evangelist Church and School. This reflects the value to a wide range of stakeholders. We also brought to light hard data that supports the need, including in the Route 2 corridor study and the county's own pedestrian and bicycle master plan. These studies recommended it be targeted as high priority for safety reasons. Thanks to County Executive Pittman and Councilwoman Fiedler, thank you, and our former state delegate Rachel Munoz, we have made real progress, and we thank you. For example, the field surveys completed. There's some design funding. The Maryland Department of Transportation has assigned a project manager, and federal aid has been requested. Now we're asking the county to keep the momentum going with budget support in 2026, which also coincidentally marks the 100-year anniversary of the establishment of our neighborhood. It's time. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Christy Keiss. I live here in District 5, and I've lived in Anne Arundel County since 1972. I'm here representing school health today. And school health are all the nurses and health assistants, CNAs, med techs that work in the schools, that are on the front line with your kids. Our budget doesn't come out of the Anne Arundel County school budget. It's separate. It comes out of the health department budget. And for years and years, we've been overlooked. Last year, you guys really stepped up, gave us a raise, a few more days off, but we make hardly any money. A health assistant cannot live in Anne Arundel County and work as a health assistant in Anne Arundel County. It's not possible. So I'd like you to not forget us. We are not represented by a union or have any representation. We're all kind of individuals. There's 2 or 3 people in each school. So we never even talk to each other. So we don't have that group to stand up and support for us and speak for us. So we always come here and speak. And so we want to be heard, and we want you to know, last year we lost, out of 300 employees, we lost 150. Those are ones that we're training. We're losing so much money because we're losing people because we're not paying them. Plus, in the health rooms, it's archaic. Just this year we started an online system where we're electronic, but we don't have Chromebooks to give meds and do those things. The kindergartners all have Chromebooks, but the nurses and health assistants do not. So thank you. I hope that you really consider school health.
Up next, we have Mary Kay Fallis, Maggie Michael, and O'Brien Atkinson.
Good evening. I'm Mary Kay Felice. Thank you for this opportunity and for being here this evening. I really didn't have anything prepared. I did have an email that, Amanda, I appreciate your response to my request. So I didn't have anything formally prepared, but I stand here in front of you today to seek your support for sub-meters for homes with public water and sewer. I've lived on the same road in District 5 for 23 years. I've paid for public water, which had increased most years, and the associated water and sewer cost, even though the majority of the water usage is for sprinkling water for plants and for grass. It has gotten to a point where these bills have become an extraordinary burden. Some of the neighbors are reporting that their quarterly water bills, we had a dry summer, are $5,000 before an excess water credit. They're paying $3,000. We as residents are paying roughly $6,000 a year in water bills in dry years when we want to basically take care of our plants in the exterior of our home. In the email, my understanding is that this has been on the docket in front of the county for years. I've been there 23 years. I've asked for sub-meters. I've even offered to drill a well to actually, offset the cost of future burden for the rising cost of water and the associated sewer costs. And I was denied, saying we'd be fined if we tried to drill a well with public water and sewer. So I ask here for you today to really prioritize the consideration of sub-meters for those. Your CFO did a nice job of explaining the numbers, saying that the county does not want to drive us away. Neighboring counties do have sub-meters. This has been going on for way too many years. We ask respectfully for you to prioritize this. Thank you.
Good evening, Councilwoman Fiedler and Mr. County Executive. I'm O'Brien Atkinson. I'm a resident of District 5, a graduate of the University of Maryland, and I'm president of the Anne Arundel County Fraternal Order of Police. Our FOP represents the more than 700 police officers actively serving this county. We should represent many more, but together, our efforts to hire more police officers has fallen short. There are a number of our members here with me tonight, and we're here because we are dedicated to serving and protecting our citizens. We're here because we want you to understand our frustration. We're here to give you, our council members, and the citizens our perspective. We're here to tell you what we see, what we feel, and what we experience. We have a lot of challenges. We have to face these challenges together. We need the full effort of you and your team to overcome the unrelenting staffing challenges we have faced in our police department for far too long. We understand your job pulls you in many directions, and we appreciate your aspirations for what this county could be and should be for our citizens. Our officers don't like public speaking like this. We want to do our jobs, do it well, and go home to our families. But we need to make sure that those citizens that we protect know what's happening. We need them to understand why you should prioritize public safety and what happens when we fail. We need them to understand why properly staffing our police department is not just a political catchphrase. It is a critical need for our county's well-being, and it is something that we have consistently failed to achieve. Our police officers have dedicated their lives to make this county as safe as it can be and should be for all of our citizens. We are subjected to unrelenting scrutiny, all of our actions recorded and reviewed. We are picked apart and sometimes picked on. But we're here to do the job that many would not or could not do, and we need your continued support. So thank you.
All right, up next we have Tyler Argubright, Tara Russ, and Jacob Greer.
Good evening, Mr. Pittman, Ms. Fielder. My name is Tyler Argubright. I'm a proud FOP member. I have 4 months on the job with the Anne Arundel County Police Department. I was a lateral officer from the Queen Anne's County Office of the Sheriff's after spending 6 years there. I was extraordinarily excited to come work for the Anne Arundel County Police since I was born and raised in Anne Arundel County. This is the best police department in the state of Maryland. I came here because I wanted to work for the best and to protect the community I live and grew up in. You helped increase our salaries, which everyone is extremely grateful for, but we need to continue to make progress. The reason why is we need more officers. We need to retain the officers we currently have and attract new ones. I personally know officers from surrounding counties that want to come and work and live in Anne Arundel County. They just can't afford to right now. If we continue the process we've made, those officers will come and work and live here. We also retain experienced officers who would teach the next generation of officers the Anne Arundel County way, which we desperately need. We need to address our staffing shortages, which are tiring out our officers and forcing them to look for other places to work. 3 weeks ago, I was dragged by a suspect vehicle and thrown over the hood of a car and nearly crushed between two vehicles. Thankfully, my injuries were not worse, and I'm recovering well. I say this not for pity, but to show you that we risk everything to protect the community we love. As a third-generation police officer, I can say that I love being an Anne Arundel County police officer. We desperately need the support so we continue to face down criminals who would do harm to the community that we live in. Thank you for your time.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Pittman and Ms. Fiedler. My name is Tara Russ, and I'm a board member of the Anne Arundel County Fraternal Order of Police. I've been a police officer for 12 years. About 9 of those have been with Anne Arundel County. I was recently promoted to sergeant and placed in charge of a patrol shift. This is probably one of the biggest changes an officer can experience during their career. As officers, we always worry about each other, but being placed in the role of a supervisor, everything changes. Your officers look to you for guidance, and they must trust that you will lead them and make sure they come home safe each and every day. For me, that is important and includes being in charge of supervising about 18 officers. Normally that would be 18, but my shift has been so short-staffed that over the past few months, the department has had to loan me 14 detectives and other non-patrol officers to backfill the vacancies on my shift. Mr. County Executive, I think you can sympathize with this. You're responsible for making sure that our 760 police officers have the support we need so that we can keep our citizens safe and keep each other safe. You have given us police cars to patrol our jurisdiction and radios to communicate and coordinate, in addition to other necessary equipment. But the thing we need to keep each other and our county safe is highly trained officers. We cannot give up our efforts to attract and retain the best police officers to serve Anne Arundel County. Please continue to prioritize the men and women who put their lives on the line for our county every day. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Pittman and Ms. Fiedler. My name is Jacob Greer. I've been a police officer for 18 years. I'm an FOP member, and I've been an Anne Arundel County police officer for 14 years. Before that, I was a Maryland State Trooper. I can assure you and everyone here that what Officer Algebright just said was absolutely correct. Anne Arundel County Police is the best police department in our state. That means something coming from a former trooper. Feel free to tell Governor Moore that. But we are facing a critical staffing shortage. I work in our crash investigations unit. We investigate traffic crash fatalities. In 2024, we had 40 deaths on Anne Arundel County roadways, while other major agencies have traffic enforcement units that focus on enforcement and try to prevent such fatalities. We have no such thing in our county. We don't have the staff. We also don't have a Marine unit. While Prince George's County and Baltimore County Police spent days helping with the rescue and recovery efforts after the Key Bridge collapse, we couldn't do much more than provide investigative support. With over 500 miles of shoreline in the county, we don't have enough officers to staff a Marine unit. We could go on and on. We have many more units, investigative, operational, and support, that have never been staffed properly. Even worse, many have been de-staffed as we shift resources to our patrol operations so we can answer 911 calls. We are constantly stretched far too thin. We do our best to put on a happy face as we serve our citizens, and when we show up to help, they think everything must be okay. But it's not. Morale is down as officers are coming to the realization that after so many years, there might not be a light at the end of the tunnel. Please continue to work with us to reverse this trend and hire the best officers to work with us in the best place for all. Thank you.
Okay. Up next is Dwayne Rayner, Mark Gass, and Chris Carnaggio.
Good evening, Mr. Pittman, Ms. Fiedler. My name is Dwayne Rayner. I'm a board member of the Anne Arundel County Fraternal Order of Police. Over the past few days, our officers have handled 2 shootings, a home invasion, a robbery with a firearm, multiple burglaries, a theft from auto spree, a sex offense, and a strong-arm robbery. In the past few nights, our officers have seized 5 illegal handguns off the streets. 2 were in cars with a large amount of drugs. One of the cars was stolen. The other 2 handguns were used in felony assaults, and 1 was used in a shooting. Our officers are out there night after night, day after day, and we're doing the best we can to protect our communities. Crime may be down, but that is little comfort to the folks whose home was burglarized, or the citizens whose cars were broken into, or the recent victims of felony assault. We're out there doing this with dangerously low levels of staffing, with over 180 officers, 180 officers eligible for retirement today. We have to do more to attract new officers, experienced officers from other jurisdictions, and we have to retain the officers whose knowledge and experience are invaluable in the fight against crime now and in the future. Please support your police officers in the upcoming budget. Thank you.
Good evening, County Executive Pittman, Councilwoman Fiedler. My name is Mark Ass. I'm the first Vice President of Anne Arundel County Fraternal Order Police. I spoke to you a couple nights ago, but I think some of what I said bears repeating. And I think it's important for many of our citizens to hear it as well. Our police department is in a crisis of staffing. For the past year, our chief and her command staff have been doing everything they can to address the critical shortfalls of officers we have in our police department. But one thing they have been unable to do is hire and retain more officers to fill the gaps. We have begun to cut services, fewer community outreach and engagement events, fewer detectives investigating crimes that plague our citizens, fewer full-time crisis intervention officers to focus on the mental health and well-being of our most vulnerable citizens. We have agreed that our police department needs at least 1,100 officers. That means right now we are nearly 350 officers short, no change from last year. The FOP has brought ideas and solutions. Yes, some of them cost money. Thank you for your concessions and investments you have made, but there is more work to be done. We also agree that public safety is the most fundamental obligation of government. Let's fix this problem. It's economics 101, supply and demand. We need 350 more cops. Demand is high. The unemployment rate is 3.1%. Supply is low. The cost of a police officer, the person who puts their mental, physical, and legal well-being in jeopardy every day, has gone up. We are failing to compete in today's labor market to uphold the government's most fundamental obligation, keeping its citizens safe. We have the same goal. Let's continue to work together. Let's collaborate, cooperate. Let's work, plan, and act to achieve our shared goals for the citizens of the county. Thank you.
Evening, Mr. Pittman, Ms. Fiedler. My name is Chris Conaggio. I am a board member of Anne Arundel County Police, Fraternal Order of Police. Before becoming a police officer, I proudly served in the U.S. Navy as a Seabee, including doing tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. Like my friend who came before me, I lateraled from Queen Anne's County, and I wholeheartedly agree that this is the best police department in the state of Maryland. Mr. Pittman, you got left holding the bag. Your predecessor did a horrible job of setting our county up for success in public safety. Mr. Trumbauer showed us the graphs during his presentation that showed increasing investment you have made in our public safety since you took office. But what our citizens should really be shocked about was how little the county invested in their safety for so many years before you took office, sir. It is no wonder you have had to make so many notable increases over your term. We are just now getting to where we should have been all along. But we are also playing catch up. With your help, we are trying to replace our dilapidated shooting range and truly miserable communication center with the state-of-the-art facilities. Together, we have certainly invested in a fusion center that is already bearing fruit by helping our officers apprehend the most dangerous of criminals. But in the end, it is our police officers, the people, who have been out there driving down crime in this county. It is all police officers who are putting their mental and physical lives on the line for the citizens of the county. Every jurisdiction around has undervalued its police officers. We should lead the way out of this dangerous position and get the people we need to be the best police officers in Anne Arundel County. Please, sir, support our police officers in this budget cycle. Thank you.
All right, up next we have Mike Shire, Samantha Zline, and Brian Holslander.
Good evening, Ms. Fiedler, Mr. Pittman. My name is Mike Shire. I'm a board member of the Anne Arundel County Fraternal Order of Police. Been a board member, police officer for over 20 years. I've served in a number of capacities during my career. I'm one of 2 police officers in our county that are attorneys. I went to law school so I could help our agency be the best at constitutional policing. Spend about a third of my time teaching new recruits, officers, and actually our great citizens who attend our community police academy. I also write the rules and regulations to make sure that they're clear for our officers and they can be held to account for violations. I also write computer code for our police department to help reduce administrative workloads. When the bad weather hits, I've been known to pick up a chainsaw so that our citizens don't have to be stuck on the road behind downed trees. But most of the time on the job, my time on the job has been served in patrol, either as an officer or a supervisor. That means I've regularly been one of the first officers on the worst possible scenes. I've told you before that I was one of the first officers at 888 Bestgate Road, the Capitol Gazette shooting. That day I'd settled into the fact that I might not make it out. Excuse me. I just hope that if it was my fate that day, that it would end quickly and painlessly. That same week, we handled a number of other calls for service, including the deaths of multiple overdose victims, some who passed away of old age, and a 21-year-old who had put a shotgun underneath his own chin, pulled the trigger. I've seen horrific car crashes. After a drunk driver plowed into another car head-on, I held the hand of a 15-year-old. She was screaming in pain with a broken back, neck, ribs, and many more injuries, while our firefighters worked to save her even more critically injured mother and 9-year-old sister. I've had to tell too many parents that their child would not be coming home, that they died in a car wreck from an overdose or a suicide. I've looked into the eyes of a child who's been victimized in the worst of ways. We all have stories like this. They're somehow all different, but all the same. We go home to our families. We hope to make a good life for them, free from what we see on the job. Crime has surged in our county in recent years, but we are driving it down. We're exhausted, though. We've been told for years that relief is around the corner, but then it's just more of the same, do more with less. We support you because you have supported us, but we need that support more now than ever. Please help our police officers and staff our police department. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Samantha Zline, and I am the branch manager of the Severna Park Library, one of the 2 libraries in District 5, along with the Broadneck branch. Every library exists to support and empower our county's residents. In just the past few weeks, my library staff has assisted an unhoused customer in locating the local food bank, getting information on public transit to get to that food bank, and then we found her a book so she could sit in a comfortable place and read for a little while. We rang in the new year with New Year's Eve, had over 100 attendees for that, which had stories, songs, and a fun balloon drop. We work closely with our community schools, and we've begun regular outreach visits to get the preschoolers connected to the library along with their caregivers. We host a monthly crochet program. One member joined to fight loneliness after a loss of a family member. Another is trying to make new friends since she retired, and we've even had kids show up to learn how to crochet. Here's just a few quotes from customers about services we provide. I just want to say how amazing the outdoor story time is at Kinder Park. I no longer go to indoor story times because my 3-year-old just can't stay engaged, but they can when they're outside. Thank you for outdoor story times. My daughter has low vision, and her disability pride display means so much. You can borrow so many things, including Chromebooks, and you can order any book in Maryland through Interlibrary Loan. I love this place. Everyone's always helpful, friendly, and knowledgeable. These kinds of meaningful interactions happen every day across our library system, demonstrating the vital role we play in the community. I'm here to testify in support of the library's budget to advocate for additional critical staff positions to meet our most pressing needs. I'm proud to share that the usage of the library and its resources continues to grow, and we're also proud to support the key county initiatives such as distributing the Chromebooks, providing Narcan and other public health resources, and helping prepare children for kindergarten. However, to keep pace in this increased demand and to address the evolving needs of our residents, we require additional positions. These roles are essential to ensure we have highly trained staff who can deliver excellent service and adapt to our community's changing needs. We also strive to be a highly efficient organization and the best steward of county taxpayer dollars. I want to extend my gratitude to County Executive Pittman and Councilwoman Fiedler for their unwavering support of the library. Thank you for your time.
Hello, everyone, friends and neighbors. Brian Holtzner, Vice President of Arundel County Professional Firefighters. Councilwoman Fiedler, we thank you for your kind words regarding Chris, and we extend our sympathies as well on the loss of your friend. I'm here today to talk about our efforts to keep you safe, where we've been, where we're going, and how to get there. Where we've been. For decades, District 5 was one of the the fewest firefighters of any district in the county and the biggest gaps in advanced life support service. Thankfully, we're doing better, and a lot of that is thanks to you and everyone here. And so thank you for all of your calls to your representatives that have made that possible, and thank you guys for that investment in your constituents' safety. But we still have a long ways to go. A couple examples of that. In Early Heights, we have the squad. That's what we use to cut people out of cars. You need 4 people to do that safely. We've gone from 2, just as an example how bad it was, to 3, but we need to continue to improve there. And in Cape St. Clair, where we have the boat to do the water rescues and things like that. Again, we've gone from 2 people to 3, but you can imagine you need to have 4 to safely run a boat, not to mention that those firefighters are also responsible for the firefighting care there as well. And why are all those things important? Because, like I said, 4 firefighters work faster than 3, and when you can't breathe, you need help now. But how do we get there, right? And we're firefighters and we're natural fixers, right? So we don't show up to a scene without solution. So I want to tell you a little bit about SAFER grants. That is your federal tax dollars that are available to pay for firefighter salaries now. Pays for them for 3 years, and we need your help to bring that money home. We have not applied for a SAFER grant in 5 years, and we want your money to keep you safe here. So tell your representatives, apply for SAFER today. Thank you.
All right, up next we have Joe Addie Villanola, Nicole Dooley, and Maggie Sale.
Good evening, County Exec Pittman and Councilman Fiedler. My name is Joe Divinola. I'm president of Anne Arundel County Professional Firefighters. We represent close to 1,000 highly brave men and women that are highly trained, paramedics and firefighters. I want to talk to you today about staffing in the fire department and the minimum recommended number of firefighters on engines, trucks, and squads. Out of 30 fire stations in Anne Arundel County, only 4 stations go out the door with 4 firefighters on them. All our surrounding jurisdictions go out with a minimum of 4 firefighters. We are 500 firefighters short of making that minimum national standard right now. It's a physical job. Both of you came to our fire ops program and seen firsthand how heavy our gear is, the amount of strength it takes to pull a charge hose into a burning building, etc. Along with the physical aspect comes with a high percentage of cancer in the fire service. 72% of our firefighters' line of duty deaths are caused by cancer. And other reasons, cardiac issues, as we just had Councilwoman Fiedler, her high school mate passed away recently at 46 years old. Some in their 30s, 40s. It's just, we're seeing a lot of career firefighters and paramedics retire at an early age now. They just can't take the physical aspects of the job. I commend County Exec Pittman for adding positions in his first couple of years. We are so far behind from previous administrations that we need so much more. Unlike other fire departments, we don't have a problem with applicants. We have thousands of applicants that apply on our application process every year. So we need to hire them. It's time. And I wish Chris was here because I'd like to just mention to him, I wanted to look at all the school shootings with the teachers. I wanted to look at all the police officers that get shot at on a daily basis. And I wanted to look at the firefighter deaths recently. I wanted to ask their families if they're worth $100 million. Because I'll tell you right now, you all are worth $100 million if you pass away on the job. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nicole Dooley. I am a board member of Friends of Animal Care and Control, as well as the county's Animal Matters Commission. Today, our county shelter does not euthanize animals unless their severe health or behavioral issues make them unadoptable. Pets can and do stay at the shelter for weeks and even months as they await new homes. But that was not always the case. Back when the current shelter was built 25 years ago, animals went there to die and to die quickly, in 5 days or less. I've known that for a long time, but it wasn't until I saw this book that I truly appreciated what it meant. The state requires that shelters carefully track the controlled drugs used to euthanize animals. So every time an animal is euthanized, a shelter staffer handwrites the details in a red book just like this one. And it includes what kind of animal it was and how much it weighed. This is the oldest of those red books still available. It is for the year 2003, 3 years after the shelter was built. In 2003, this book tells us that the shelter euthanized 7,295 animals. That includes 1,938 kittens. 20 years later, in 2023, the shelter euthanized just 16 kittens, all of them too sick or injured to save. Whole-scale euthanasia was a common practice at public animal shelters 25 years ago. But here's what this red book really underscores. Our county shelter wasn't built to humanely care for the neediest of Anne Arundel County's pets until they found new homes, as it does now. It was built to dispose of them, and quickly. No wonder the current shelter's design is so pitifully inadequate in all the ways we've detailed to you before. A new shelter will take years to build. We need to start now. Thank you.
All right, up next we have Brian Dage, Christina Corona, and Robert Adams.
I feel like I'm at a concert. My name is Brian Degg. I am the current chair of the Anne Arundel County Food Bank. I am crashing your party in District 5 because I won't be in District 7 next week where I live. So I wanted to come here and just talk to you. Leah was up here earlier. County Executive Pittman, thank you so much for all your continued support. Councilmember Fiedler, thank you so much for everything you do for us. I'm asking humbly to keep the $1.5 million of funding from last year in this year's budget. And I do not envy your position in any way, shape, or form, listening to all the need from all the organizations in this county. Every single one is important. When we look at the work that we're doing day in and day out of the food bank, supporting the 76 pantries, as Leah had said earlier, that need continues to go up after COVID, which was staggering because that skyrocketed. And when you have people who are working, it's called ALICE, Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed. It's the most ironic acronym I could ever think of. But these are folks that are doing all they can and they still can't afford to eat. And they're coming to us. And when we provide our pantries with services, when we pull up our mobile pantry to areas that are in what used to be called food deserts, and people come onto that mobile pantry and they're so grateful that we have fresh produce. They're excited that we have green peppers. It's an amazing thing that we get to do in this county for the people who need it most. So I humbly ask you again, please continue to help us. It's been great to have, and we're so thankful for it. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Christina Corona. I'm a high school teacher currently serving as TAC president.
I'm here tonight to advocate for fully funding the school board's budget request. We applaud Dr. Bedell's request for 155 additional special education positions, which will help reduce the crushing workloads of our special educators and related service providers. In particular, having more TAs will support our elementary colleagues dealing with difficult student behaviors that create stressful and at times unsafe conditions. We're also glad to see more school counselors to support students' social emotional needs, as well as increased staffing for our multilingual learners and their families. In regards to compensation, Dr. Bedell's proposal for increased wages for our custodians and cafeteria workers is necessary to fill vacancies, providing them with the living wages they deserve. We also need increased compensation for our certificated staff, who include our classroom teachers, school counselors, social workers, and related service providers. Due to years of stagnant wages, recent COLAs have not been enough to make our salaries competitive or even get us ahead of inflation. We're glad that 2 years ago, the county was able to secure funding to increase starting pay, which helps us to finally be competitive enough to recruit new educators. However, the remainder of the scale still lags behind surrounding counties. This is why many experienced educators continue to feel undervalued in this county, leaving many to leave. The Board of Education's budget request will be a big ask. However, these funds are needed to move our school system from good to great. Providing the competitive salaries that will recruit and retain educators, as well as the increased staffing needed to lower case sizes and caseloads. It is essential that educators finally are able to have the sustainable working conditions we need to best serve our students. Yes, this will take increased revenue, but our children are worth the investment. Thank you.
Thank you for having this forum. My name's Bob Adams. I've been a county resident for nearly all of my 60 years. My parents, my grandparents lived here most of their lives, as do my children and my grandchildren. I'm the guy who can look at a field and tell you about the houses that now occupy it, and I remember when cows grazed on the banks of Stony Creek. Tuesday night, this meeting was at Chesapeake High School, and which was built on a field. And while we were there, I remembered that not 100 feet from where we were sitting, from where you were sitting, I first met my wife of 40 years. Now, you all are sworn to secrecy because that's one of my security questions. Now, when that farmer made that sale, it was a one-time exchange. But but so are the taxes we pay. We exchange our time for money. And when that time has passed, we can't give it again, and none of us knows how much time we have. Our taxes are a sacred contribution. We expect our elected representatives to treat it that way. Budgeting these contributions is a tremendous and terrible task. It's a solemn obligation. And it's so easy to get drunk on allocating who gets what. But it should be easy to say no. Think of all the generations of people represented here and throughout the county. For their sake, please say no. Please say yes to volunteers who will multiply grants with volunteer hours. But please say no to poorly run organizations demanding 10% every year because this year they promise we'll do better. Don't settle for it. Please embrace your solemn obligation and happily say no to bloat, waste, and graft. Thank you.
All right, and that's it for any speakers who signed up in advance. So we'll open the floor for anyone who might want to speak now. So if you want your 2 minutes of fame, please line up behind the mic.
Won't keep you long. I'm going to try to be brief. First of all, it's my first time meeting you. I'm embarrassed to say. I really should have come sooner. You guys do a great job. There's not been one weak speaker tonight, and there's not been one weak cause. It's amazing. I mean, the volunteers, the things that are done from their heart. And so I know I'm running out of time, so I'm going to start with that. But thank you guys, because I really do appreciate it. The West County pool is a heartfelt thing for me. I swim regularly. I'm a physician. I know what it's like to be in shape and be healthy. I'm going to continue to serve this community for as long as it can stay healthy. And I stay healthy by swimming on a regular basis. I can tell you that the community, the pool here at North Arundel Aquatic Center services the young. I see kids getting lessons, and they've got a future. They're staying out of trouble. They're not involved with crime. I see elders getting exercise in the aerobics class. Yeah, they're overweight, but they're learning to manage that weight. They're not falling. They're staying healthy. They're staying out of the ER. Many of them are. Many of them aren't. I can tell you we know about a property that's already been purchased for the next pool. I can tell you that the development here, everyone hates development. Well, it's not going to be anywhere where there'll be congestion. It'll stop development. Homes won't be built there. And in fact, it'll service existing communities here, and it'll increase your property value because we'll have more amenities. We'll have a pool. The pool is, like I said, it's important to everyone's health. It's important for crime. We've been putting Band-Aids on crime for years. This is my pet peeve in Baltimore City. We're sitting there trying to fix the problem with the existing guns in the street. We've got to start it from the kids. You've got to keep the kids out of trouble. Give them self-esteem. Give them a sport. Teach them to be proud of themselves. Give them an activity after school, and you will solve crime. That won't happen overnight. It's going to take a generation. If we don't invest now, that pool won't be made. We've got to do something. I've seen permits. The problem with permitting existing in my community, Stewart's Landing, they didn't get the pool. Somebody objected. Long story short is if we don't invest now, it won't happen. We've got to start now. I know it sounds like it's less than worthy compared to some of the other people's causes here, but honestly, it's a great cause for health and for crime and for youth.
Hi, good evening. I'm Sandra Salvatore. I was signed up on the earlier schedule, but unfortunately I couldn't get here because of work. But thank you both for being here and for listening. I have a couple different range of topics. One, I want to talk about the animals as well. I want to second all the volunteers here to please boost and support the animal care and control, the shelter. Please rebuild that. I'm even keen on getting other locations because it's quite far away. So where I live in the fifth area, something closer to the Bay Bridge would be nice too. But what I'm interested in too is also trying to, within the budget, focus on trying to kind of solve some of the problem that puts a burden on the shelter, which is keeping pets with their parents, the human parents, and vice versa. Our Next Door app is very lively in our area, and I see a lot of people struggling, having to give up their pets because either they had to move because they lost their job, and now they have to find a location that can't keep their pets, or people who are moving into assisted living and can't keep their pets, or other different issues. A lot of it is economic. You know, it's $70 to $180 just to have someone see your pet just to give them an extended pain medication. And I'm dealing with that now for my dog. So it's really frustrating. It's costing a lot of money to keep our pets. If within the budget we have a way to help organizations fund people to be able to keep their pets, I think you'll keep pets out of the shelters. And then that way the shelter can be used for those cases where, you know, people, for whatever reason, either they passed or other, and that's a whole other problem that we're having. But yeah, I would really appreciate you focusing on that as well. Also, encourage pet-friendly housing. A lot of people, again, just landlords are being able to arbitrarily say, no, you can't. I'm a mom of pit bulls. I love my pit bulls. I foster them, and I would like to see people and I would like to see the county encourage pet-friendly housing of all different breeds. So I appreciate your time. Thank you for this.
Good evening. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Liz Murphy. I'm a resident here, and I'm also a special education teacher. I'm here to ask you to fully fund the Board of Education's budget. I want to let the county know that we are in desperate need for more special educators. I see colleagues searching for ways out of teaching every day. The workload and student-to-teacher ratio is not sustainable. We need more teachers. I had a friend retire just this year, mid-year, 5 years earlier than she planned because she couldn't take it anymore. And believe me, more are going to follow, whether it's retirement or finding another job. Our caseload and required paperwork continue to increase with no increase in staff. We need funding for more special educators, behavior specialists, social workers, TAs, TSA, psychologists, and counselors, so that we can support and educate our students with special needs. I urge you to support and fully fund the Board of Education's request to avoid teacher overload and burnout so that we can continue to do our best in educating the county's children. Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else? Okay, as they say in the county council meeting, seeing no movement, this concludes the public testimony portion of tonight's program. But if you think of anything else, please email budget-comments@aacounty.org. But for now, I will turn it back over to our elected officials, starting with Councilwoman Amanda Fiedler.
I'm going to stand after sitting. I think there should be a chiropractor at these. I'm actually going to move over here. So I told you it was important for you to be here, and you are here, so thank you for coming tonight. The county executive was accurate when he said that we work collaboratively through the budget process. Some of the initiatives in the supplemental budget that have come from these very town hall meetings and the 2 public hearings before the county council after the budget is introduced, they were important, and we worked with the county executive as a council. After we knew how much we were cutting from the budget, we went to the county executive, and he agreed to, I think you've agreed to almost everything that the county council has unanimously decided we want to move forward. So some of those things are 5 new officers to the police department a few years ago, new collection development specialists in the libraries, and enhancements in salaries. We added 1 year over $3 million to increase starting teacher salaries, and some pay enhancement for employees at the community college. So your actions tonight do make a big difference. I want to thank all of the groups who came out this evening, our library staff, I don't know if they're still here, the school health professionals. I have 3 kids in the public school system, so I certainly want them to have good care if they go into their health room. The Anne Arundel County Food Bank, there is a food bank that I pass, or a location, a pantry, my brother's pantry right off of College Parkway. So I know how critical you are to residents across the county. Anne Arundel County Public Schools, again, I have 3 children in the school system. I really look forward to having a conversation with you all. We have a meeting coming up. At your recent dinner, there was a lot of discussion. I appreciated the invitation and an opportunity to maybe think outside of the box on a few things. It might not be in the purview of the council, but I think that there's some things maybe we can talk to the superintendent about. Social worker pay for our school system, social worker staff. I hear it from my kids, just talking to parents. I know our kids have continued to struggle since COVID, and I know how critical you are. I would actually love to have a conversation with you off the record to hear what other jurisdictions are doing. My aide is right behind you. She can get some information, but I also have her contact information. Pam Scarborough is my aide. Our FOP, you almost got me crying. I really tried not to. I really cried last year at this, but my hat's off to you. There are no other positions in Anne Arundel County where you go to work and you don't know if you're coming home, except if you're in public safety. You put your life on the line every single day. Our firefighters, I don't know if they're still around. Yes, I see them back there. Thank you so much for everything that you do and for your words this evening. Transportation's huge. There was some conversation or some talking points on the timeline of our transportation initiatives. I know there's a lot of frustration over the timing of the Broadneck Trail, but I promise you it is getting done. It is getting done. I will go out there and gladly cut the ribbon with Ms. Lays and crew and Department of Public Works. Ms. Lays, hats off to her, Department of Fun, and I know she's going to have at least 3 bike rides on the Broadneck Trail. AIJN, you did a great job tandem testifying in 2 minutes. I've never seen that, but that was well rehearsed. Kudos to you. Ms. Dominguez, yes, she's still here. You know, if you do a private project, you've done lickety-split. But you guys have been working on this for quite some time. I know we exchanged communication today. It is moving along, but I am happy to be there cheering for you and getting this thing up and finished finally. We'll see where the state goes with this. Friends of Animal Care and Control, you guys never disappoint. You are in really tough positions. I think this position is tough, but you deal with animals who pull at my heartstrings, as I think you all know. You've been kind of through the ringer in the past year, but you're here standing, and I thank you so much for the work that you do for our helpless animals. And for the folks out there who might watch this on streaming now or later, adopt, don't shop, and adopt from Anne Arundel County Animal Care and Control. Let's see, the Magathie River Association, I felt like there was some potential partnership coming with the invasive species efforts. Maybe there's an opportunity there. I know I have 3 children, 3 boys who love to be outside. We have a forest conservation easement in our backyard. My children are very skilled at cutting ivy. If you need help, maybe my kids can do the training for volunteers. But either way, I do think that there's a partnership opportunity there. And I think the county executive and I were kind of exchanging thoughts on that. So thank you for coming out and pleading the case of the trees. I think that might be an easier snip than anything else. The nonprofit center that Marie spoke about, I loved her passion for that. I think she has since left, but that was something that was presented in the plans for Crownsville, and I look forward to seeing what comes of that. Mr. Svensson comes to county council meetings regularly to make sure you know what's going on in the budget, and sometimes he surprises us with things that we didn't even realize were inside of the budget with his budget expertise. So thank you for bringing that point to the attention of everyone here this evening. Mr. Keene, I hear you, trail construction. The Meyer family, I saw them walk out. They were the folks who were asking about the London Lane sidewalk. When you talk about constituents who hear the message to come out, they reached out to me. I told them London Lane sidewalk is on the DPW list. It's just a matter of when and how we get there. They asked what they could do. I said, come out to this budget town hall. And they came out, and they both spoke with their children here tonight. So if they are watching at home, it is coming. It's just a matter of timing and funding at this point. I think that covers every group that came out. If I missed anyone, I promise you that it was not intentional. I tried to take notes. You can always reach out to me via email, pick up the phone, give me a ring, ask for a meeting. I'm always happy to meet with folks, but I hope you know that this is truly a collaborative effort, and you probably have realized from hearing from everyone this evening, it is not going to be an easy task to make decisions. I don't envy the county executive's position in baking that cake because it's tough. There's not endless amounts of ingredients, and he's got to produce something to serve the citizens of Anne Arundel County, and then he passes it to the council. So thank you again tonight for coming out, and I'm happy to chat with anyone afterwards.
Back to the cake, huh? We've been joking about cake the whole night. Okay, so I guess Councilwoman Fiedler and I agree on almost everything because she said everything that I was going to say. And my staff has told me when we were planning these budget town halls this year, you got to talk less at the end because everybody really wants to go home. And I know we're actually going to be kicked out of this room. So I won't go through all of them. I do want to say, though, that every one of the organizations that she mentioned is on my list, and that I heard every one of these organizations, and I actually want to fund every one of these organizations. But I also want to get rid of bloat and waste. So you don't believe me, but I agree with you. I'm just having trouble finding it in some of these organizations. So the one thing that Councilwoman Fiedler and I disagree about, though, is that we each have the same problem. We each have a guinea pig whose friend died, And we each have sons who are really kind of outgrowing the guinea pig thing. And the guinea pigs just keep on living. And one of us is going to have to give their guinea pig to the other person so that the two guinea pigs can live together and live the rest of their lives happily. But neither of us is willing to take the other. So we'll work that out someday. But seriously, I particularly want to recognize the people whose job is a whole lot harder than mine. I like to say it's a really hard job because I have to make tough decisions. But the people in county government who are on the front lines have really difficult jobs. And while often people think, well, government workers are, overpaid and underworked, I would argue in very many cases it's the opposite. Not all, but that they really do, particularly the ones in public safety who risk their lives, but also the people who are in our schools who are dealing with behavioral issues that they never used to have to deal with, and numbers of students that are beyond what everybody knows is an appropriate number to have in a classroom. All of these agencies where we know that we should be doing better, they're all feel urgent. And we raise taxes the first year, and that's always controversial. We've done a little bit of tweaks with the progressivity of the income tax in between. And every year I do talk to council members about how they feel about tax increases. We'd all like to find cuts that we can do to be able to pay for things. It's easier. We'd all like for revenue to increase because the economy is good, and we've had some of that. But it is, it is the other part of this whole conversation that doesn't usually come up a whole lot in budget town halls, is the tax side of it, and that's the way the math works. So the state is struggling with that right now. I mean, it is something that we as elected officials need to be honest about and need to make tough decisions about sometimes. So it's a tough year. We're going to do everything we can, obviously, and I really, really appreciate people coming out and opening up their hearts and sometimes practically getting down on their knees, sometimes, being close to being in tears, because people are, they believe in their work. And when they believe in their work, they do good work. So thank you, all of you.